Then we move forward to where does the Chinese demand and the Dutch knowledge, as we just talked about, can meet each other. I'm very happy to introduce to you Mr. Fons Klein-Tuente, the Innovation Officer at the Dutch Consulate in Guangzhou. Mr. Fons Klein-Tuente, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Maurits. Good morning, welcome to the audience, panelists, and thanks to the organizers. As the host said, my name is Fons. I work at the Dutch Consulate in Guangzhou as the Officer for Innovation, Science and Technology. In a nutshell, the Netherlands Innovation Network is spread all over the world. And in China, we are strongly represented with 9 people, 4 in Beijing, 3 people in Shanghai, and 2 in Guangzhou, including me. Our goal is to strengthen the innovation capacity of Dutch companies, knowledge institutions and governments through knowledge-intensive international cooperation. We also try to inform Dutch organizations about international trends and developments in the innovation domain. In our team, we each mainly focus on different subjects and topics, and my topic is hydrogen, hence the participation in this webinar today. We've been quite active actually in the field of hydrogen with the 2 most recent examples, the hydrogen webinar series with 5 episodes that we organized in June and July of this year, and a hydrogen delegation to the Chinese city of Guosheng with Dutch companies that are already based and active in hydrogen in China. Now for today's webinar, with the topic, where do Chinese needs and Dutch knowledge meet, I would like to elaborate on 2 specific parts of hydrogen in China, rather than keeping it very general introduction. Because China is very large and there are many different locations that each have their own hydrogen cluster, there is way too much information to summarize in 10 minutes. Because in China, there is currently not really a clear discussion, clear direction for hydrogen strategy from a national level, hydrogen plans are mainly of a regional level. As a result, there are cities or regions that are very active in the field of hydrogen from their own initiative, but there is often still lack of cooperation or coordination between these areas, cities and clusters. This is in stark contrast to the Netherlands, where we do have this with the climate agreement, the innovation roadmap for hydrogen, the government strategy on hydrogen, the current hydrogen BIB, etc. In all likelihood though, this will change soon because there is now a national plan in China to be carbon neutral by 2016. For today, besides this introduction, I will give a more in-depth look into China's hydrogen production and China's hydrogen fuel cell vehicle market, 2 very big sectors with a large supply chains. Also 2 sectors in which the Netherlands is quite strong. So I hope my presentation can give you a clearer view of China's hydrogen market and in these 2 fields especially. Let's dive right into it and start with green hydrogen production in China. First of all, the methods for producing hydrogen in China are the same as other countries, meaning it's produced from fossil fuels, industrial byproducts, high temperature cracking and electrolysis. So the methods are the same, but the difference in China lies in the ratio. Because in China there are rich coal resources, so coal to hydrogen dominates the mix by 48%. And this is much higher than the global average, where natural gas to hydrogen takes up the largest part, namely 48%. Some more numbers before we continue. The annual hydrogen production in China is nearly 20 million tons, and this is nearly 30% of the world production. Both China and the international community have a keen interest in producing hydrogen from renewable energy. In China, renewable energy has been growing a lot in recent years, but for China there are unique challenges in developing these renewables, and let me briefly explain. Most of the renewable sources are concentrated in the northwestern part of the country, where local electricity consumption is relatively low. This adds the challenge in power transmission. This has resulted in a large amount of wasted solar, wind and hydropower. In other words, part of the renewable electricity is not fed into the power grid. this surplus of renewable energy power can surely be used more effectively. So part of it can be used to feed to the power grid, and China can also connect the power to electrolyzers to produce hydrogen as a way to store energy. Furthermore, the hydrogen can be used for mobility, because it is estimated that the hydrogen produced from wasted wind power alone can fuel around 180,000 hydrogen buses per year. An interesting location in China where there are currently many projects going on to produce green hydrogen out of solar and wind is Zhangjiakou. Zhangjiakou is a national demonstration zone for renewable energy application, and they have implemented many projects in Zhangjiakou. And one interesting and great example is that of the Guosheng hydrogen refuel station and production plant, which is currently finishing its phase 1 construction. The hydrogen produced there will be used to fuel the 2,000 hydrogen fuel cell vehicles in Zhangjiakou and Beijing that will be driving there during the 2022 Winter Olympics. The straight line distance between Zhangjiakou and Beijing is about 200 kilometers, which is within the break-even distance of tube trailers. The transportation cost effectiveness would be compromised once beyond that point. Therefore, the power-to-hydrogen plant in Zhangjiakou will be economically viable. Because Zhangjiakou, they use the surplus of solar and wind energy fed into the power grid to produce hydrogen, and the larger production scaling, the hydrogen can be delivered at a lower price. The charge of fuel cell bus refueling is 30 RMB per kilograms, which is the same as diesel for buses. So you can imagine the local buses are very motivated to use hydrogen. For now, this is all the time I will spend on hydrogen production in China, because I still want to delegate some of my presentation time to another very important hydrogen aspect, and which one is also very big in China, namely applications. And for today, mainly the hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, also known as HFCVs. So let's start off with some numbers. The cumulative number of NEVs deployed in China has surpassed 4.4 million by April 2020, and the penetration of NEVs, new energy vehicles, in 2020 has reached 3.6%. The share of hydrogen fuel cell vehicles is still small, but we're seeing more and more real-life applications, especially in the city of Guosheng, where there are already more than 2,000 hydrogen buses active. Up to now, 36 cities have launched commercial demonstration operation of hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, with more than 6,400 HFCVs deployed, making China the country with the most in-service fuel cell commercial vehicles. China has set the goal to have 1 million hydrogen fuel cell vehicles by 2030, and by 2020 it is estimated to have realized the initial commercial production of 10,000 HFCVs. All these vehicles need to refuel, and for that we need HRS, or hydrogen refuel cell stations. So currently there are more than 61 hydrogen refuel cell stations in China in 36 cities, including Guangzhou, Foshan, Shanghai and Beijing. It is estimated that by the end of 2020 there will be 100 hydrogen refuel cell stations in China. By May 2020, roughly 30 local governments had released hydrogen refuel cell related plans and policies, and the regulations regarding hydrogen supporting facilities, which have been gradually improved as well. For hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, a long-term strategy is needed, and from the Chinese private business perspective, hydrogen fuel cell vehicles development can be divided into several periods: the emergence period, the commercialization period, and the rapid development period. The emergence period is before the end of 2020, with a focus on fuel cell engines mounted on buses, coaches and logistics vehicles. During the commercialization period from 2020 to 2025, the focus is to expand the application of high-power fuel cell engines in medium and heavy-duty trucks, intercity coaches, large garbage trucks, and other special purpose vehicles. After 2025, with advanced technologies, reduced costs, and an improved hydrogen refueling station network, the fuel cell engines could also be applied to passenger cars, long-haul coaches, and heavy-duty tractors. And then a full coverage will be realized of vehicle applications. So the opportunities for fuel cell development have created a favorable environment and a large market potential. But there are also challenges. So first, China is still at the initial stage of hydrogen industrialization, and there indeed have been made remarkable achievements in previous years. The cost has also been reduced substantially, product reliability has improved, but there are still problems to be solved. There's a long way to go to realize market-oriented application and commercial promotion. The areas requiring further efforts include cost reduction, hydrogen supply, technology capacity, and standardization. So the first challenge is cost reduction. The cost of hydrogen fuel cell vehicles is higher than that of diesel vehicles for EVs, and thus there needs to be coordinated efforts of the entire industrial chain to drive the cost lower. Also, government support is likely needed in the early stage. The second challenge is the hydrogen supply. It includes hydrogen supply security and development of hydrogen fuel cell station network. The third challenge is the development of products that could be applied in multiple scenarios. For example, develop products that can be used on long-haul coaches, medium and heavy-duty trucks, and other vehicles requiring a longer operational range. Such products need further improvement, including the development of the stack and BOP, so air compressor, hydrogen recirculation, water pump, etc. The fourth challenge is the regulatory policy system for future applications, which still needs optimization. For example, the planning and procedures of hydrogen refueling stations construction, applicable regulations and standards need to catch up with the technologies and applications. So those are the urgent issues that we, China and the Netherlands can and need to tackle in the near future. I've hereby come to the end of my presentation, so thanks again to the organizers and also to the audience and the other panelists. And in case there are any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Back to you, Maurits.
Thank you very much, Fons. Thank you so much for the presentation on where the know-how and the demand can meet each other.